Why are we here? This question doesn't get as much recognition as the question, who am I? But I think they work in tandem, they go hand in hand, and so that's why today I want to spend some time diving into this question, why are we here? The question, why are we here, helps us put our entire life's experience in a broader perspective, a wide angle perspective, a big picture perspective. And when we do this, like everything that happens in our lives, we put it in a certain perspective, we give it a certain meaning, and from that meaning we derive a certain feedback, we derive a certain lesson and information, and we add that to our perspective, we add that to our soul's journey. But the question, why am I here? Why all of this? Determines the framework in which we put everything. Again, this is the fundamental, everything in life happens, and we work with it in certain ways, but everything is based upon certain fundamental principles. And the answer to the question, why am I here? Why are we experiencing this? Is one of those fundamental premises on which we base everything. The right answer to the question, why are we here, gives us a bigger perspective that helps us put everything that we experience into life in this bigger framework in a way that it ends up serving us. What happens when we tend to zoom in too much, when we focus on all the little details and only our smaller perspective, is that we tend to feel victimized by what happens in life. Once we understand the answer to this question, why am I here? Once we learn to hold this bigger perspective at all times, then we can more safely zoom into the details, because they are still important. Of course they are important. Remember, we are universal perspective, we are God perspective, we are source, having a human experience. Both are important. The only problem is, this is this journey of waking up, is that we've only had this really focused, really detailed oriented perspective, and not only that we became lost in that perspective. We became so focused on the little details that we didn't see the bigger picture. So a lot of the work that we're doing here, the whole journey of awakening, is simply waking up to the bigger perspective without compromising, without having to give up your smaller perspective. And I don't necessarily think that a lot of more traditional spiritual teachers and lineages meant to do this. However, a lot of the New Age has confused spiritual teachings in a sense of we need to give up our smaller perspective in favor of the bigger perspective. Anyway, back to the point of this video. Why are we here? Why are we experiencing separation from Source? The true answer would be, why not? If you are God, if you are Source, if anything is possible at a certain point, if manifestation is instant and love is all there is, wouldn't you at a certain point want to know? Wouldn't you want to satisfy your curiosity of what it's like to experience something that you aren't? So, lack of love or opposite of love, they don't exist, because God is all there is. Consciousness is all there is. The one thing is all there is. And the essence, the quality of that one thing, of existence itself, is love. The word that we use, love, unconditional love, compassion, joy, excitement, life. wouldn't you want to know what it's like? After being eternally infinite, wouldn't you want to experience what it's like to be not infinite, to be not eternal, to be mortal, to have limitations? Why do we watch movies? Why do we play board games? Why do we make up games? Because this is a part of consciousness. Consciousness loves to play with consciousness. It wants to simply experience things for the sake of experiencing them. So even though death isn't a real thing, and a lack of love isn't a real thing, it doesn't actually exist, we are free to experience it, because anything can be experienced through the setting up of a virtual experience or a hallucination or a dream or an illusion, whatever your word for that is. That is the nature of consciousness. It can do anything because it is everything. That doesn't mean that we are actually separate from Source. We are simply having that experience, because adding that experience into the mix makes consciousness itself evolve beyond what it was before. This is evolution, this is expansion. It wants to experience more of anything that's possible. Yes, even the so-called bad things, like war, like death. Because by experiencing those things, it gets to know more about itself. Contrast, because this is the world of contrast. 3D is a world of contrast. Consciousness, what consciousness is doing here is playing out things that it's not to learn more about what it is. If God is one thing, and it's only ever just extension, nothing is separate from Source ever. It's not possible. But it's possible to have the experience of it, and it's having that experience to become more self-aware. In the beginning, God wasn't self-aware in the sense that we are. That we can look at ourselves and self-reflect and all of that. It had like a shimmer of an awareness of like, okay, I exist. That's it. That is it. Can you imagine? It's kind of almost like a baby. It's not highly complex self-awareness. God is creating a highly complex, a highly evolved sense of self-awareness, self-knowledge through creation, through extending itself through all of us. And here in this physical 3D realm, which is basically as far away as you can get from the experience of oneness, it's reaching as far out as it can to make its way back to oneness. But I take slight issue with this interpretation, because in a way it's going back to oneness, but with more self-awareness. So it is different than before. We are not, as a human being, having a human experience. We are not becoming more than we ever were. We are making we are making our way back to the awareness of what we are, which is one with God, which is having the same qualities, the same properties as the Creator. We are consciousness, the essence is universal love, and we create through extension, through our thought. That's how we create. However, we're making our way back to that, but having so much more self-awareness, because we've explored possibilities within ourselves that are not fun to experience. You know, the darker side of what's possible. The whole negative range is what we've been experimenting with now for thousands and thousands and thousands of years on this planet Earth, which I like to refer to it as Earth School. This whole dimension, this whole physical reality, every physical plane of existence is an experiment, and it's a curriculum. And we took the hardest class possible. We are like PhD students in like theoretical physics, literally. Pretty much nothing more challenging than you can do. Experiencing life in this way, in this 3D way, having gone into complete darkness, into complete loss of awareness of being one with anything that we can perceive. All right? And we're doing this for a really, really good reason. Even though it may not always feel like that. Most of the time it will feel, for many of us that are, waking up and we're on this path, we're consciously walking this path, a lot of the time we'll be like, why? Why did I choose this? Or why am I being punished? Why am I here? What's the point? There is no point. I kind of understand. I am all, love is all there is. I am God. I am we're all one. Okay, now what? So I really hope that putting it in this bigger perspective, we have a bigger framework for how to deal with life. Because if we still have these questions of why, then we haven't actually learned the lesson, which is great. We're here to learn these lessons. We are on Earth School. We wanted to experience what it's like to find light, to find a speck of light in absolute darkness. The yin and yang symbol. We are a part of consciousness. We are streams of consciousness that are very courageous in signing up for this experiment. You have no idea. If you are here, if you are having a human experience, you are more courageous than pretty much anyone or anything in this whole, in any universe, in any dimension. This is really something that we should understand and never ever forget. That we are part of, we are undertaking, and we created this experiment. We wanted to see if we could find our way back out of pitch black darkness. Find that little dot of light somewhere. And we did. We are. If you look where we are now compared to 20, 30,000 years ago, like if you look at history in this sense, in a bigger sense, we are, without a shadow of doubt, waking up to our true nature, to our oneness with God. There is no doubt about that. But it's been one hell of a ride. And here is, why. Imagine this. If you are born and you grew up very, very, very rich, you would never know. Many of us would be like, okay, sign me up. No. From your limited human perspective of just one lifetime, probably never having felt that you have enough money, you can replace money with any other concept, any other symbol, because it's nothing more than that. Money isn't money. Relationships aren't relationships. They're just symbols. So you can replace the word money for love or relationships or success or whatever. Feeling good about yourself. If you hadn't had the experience of missing that, you wouldn't appreciate it. You wouldn't understand it. You wouldn't. Do you understand? A fish in a bowl of water has no idea that it's in water. It's the same with humans. We are surrounded by God. We are surrounded. We are swimming in love. But if you've never lost that awareness, then you are not even aware. So by losing the awareness of what you are, you gain a much stronger, deeper awareness and a deeper appreciation. So by going through this insane experiment for the last nearly 30,000 years that we have created here on Earth, we are going to wake up with a level of awareness of what God is and what creation is and how we function as a part of creation in a way that the rest of creation that hasn't had this experience will never have. In a way they will, by living vicariously through us, but not having actually experienced it. This is like the story of the prodigal son. The son that said goodbye to his inheritance and wandered the world and came back, was embraced by the father with more enthusiasm than the son who never left his riches and his kingdom and his inheritance. The son who left, who said no thank you to all the gold and all the riches and came back, ended up being richer, not just because of getting the gold, but because of having gained all the experience of the world and knowing what it's like, and then actually having an appreciation for what you can do with this inheritance. Maybe it's serving the world, just as an example. But the story of the prodigal son tells us that the son who left actually was appreciated even more by the father than the son who just stayed. So this is what we are doing with our consciousness. We are simply saying we know we have it all. We know we are God. We know we are conscious creators. We have everything there ever is. Cool. Maybe we want to know what it's like to not experience love all the time, to not know that we create with our minds, to feel like a victim, to know what suffering is like, to know, because as a because everything is neutral and everything is energy and everything is just mere possibility. Creators know that they have darkness in them because darkness and light are equal possibilities. We wanted to know what it's like to actually experience darkness, actually to create from a sense of darkness, from a sense of fear, of lack, which is all the sense of having lost love. It's just one thing. Just to see that it is actually love that we want, but with a much deeper conviction and with a much deeper understanding how it all works. This is why we are on Earth School. And this is important because this will set you on the right curriculum. Answering this question, keeping this answer in mind, will set you off on the right curriculum. Because if you don't understand the answer to this question, life will just feel like a hassle. It will most of the time feel like, oh, I don't really want to do this. So, thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned for the next video, which will be how does it all work, which is probably my favorite topic, which is what my whole channel and everything is about. Well, how does it work? But the other two questions, had to come first to put us on the right track. If you want more, go to imayasabine.com/subscribe or check out the links below for more of my stuff, and see you in the next video.